After each review, I feel no words, and yet the words continue. The words keep us alive and give us hope. And I want to bring Elena Poniatowska in now. Um, if we can find her, there she is. Elena Poniatowska, bienvenida Elena, muchísimas gracias. Quiero decir una cosa también para la participación de personas de México y de habla hispana. Elena muy gentilmente está de acuerdo por hablar en inglés y es un poco un castigo, pero lo habla espléndidamente. Yo me disculpo con ustedes, eh, pero la vamos a escuchar un poquito en español y le pedí a Elena leer un párrafo nada más del inicio de su gran libro Fuerte es el silencio. Lo tengo acá, es este libro, colección de ensayos y de testimonios. Eh, y creo que es muy importante que todo el mundo la escuche, así como hemos escuchado a Ilia y a Rita Dove y a Carolyn Forché en sus voces totalmente increíbles, cada quien, escuchar a Elena Poniatowska porque los escritores escribimos en nuestro idioma y el español de Elena es muy, muy especial, extravagante, hermoso. So I'm just going to recap in English what I said. I've asked Elena Poniatowska, who's graciously agreed to do this conversation in English, to read one small paragraph in Spanish because her voice is so extraordinary. And I would like that we have this sequence that you all have heard. Ilya Kaminsky, his English, Rita Dove's English, Carolyn Forché's English, and now Elena Poniatowska's Spanish. Even if you don't understand the language, you will, I am absolutely sure, realize that you're hearing a great writer reading from language that is not ordinary. Elena, adelante, gracias.
Yes, well, I'm sorry not to speak in English because I think the nuns who taught me English would be very sad if they didn't. They would probably think she never learned and they think she can't speak English. But I'll speak Spanish because you asked me to. Pues póngale nomás Juan. Como si con dar su nombre temiera molestar. Espérate, me voy a poner los lentes. Temiera molestar. Ocupar un sitio en el espacio y en el tiempo que no les corresponde. No más, Juan. Al principio, cuando les preguntaba cómo se llama usted, venía el sobresalto. ¿Quién? ¿Usted? ¿Yo? Sí, usted. Pero póngale nomás Juan, o lo que quiera. Ciro me llamo, pero puedo responder a otro nombre, al que usted mande, cualquiera es bueno. Me di cuenta que su quién equivale a nadie. ¿Quién anda allí? Nadie. Nadie, contesta la multitud. Todo regresa al silencio y todos lo nutrimos porque los que responden preguntando quién nunca han tenido derecho a nada, ni siquiera a que se les designe con un nombre. Toda su vida han sido un largo y continuo soportar que se les haga a un lado. That's all. It's finished.
Gracias, Elena. Es estupendo.
You don't have to hear for hours.
Brava.
We could listen for hours. Thank you so much. This passage captures the portrait of someone being interviewed who almost doesn't care what name is used to speak to him.
Maybe I can say what it is.
Ah, bueno, adelante.
If you want me to.
I would love it.
Because I think this is these are Mexicans who lost their land, lost their houses, they have nothing, and they say, when I ask them, please give me your name, they say, I don't have a name. Give me any name you want. You
Oh.
can explain. I'm sorry.
No, no, that says just what I was going to say, and leads to this question really for both you and Carolyn. We hear it so much, especially in the poem "The Boatman," which is almost now it feels like a companion piece to this extract from Elena's preamble to Fuertes el Silencio. Your attention going to those who would not otherwise, without you, rise into writing or rise into literature, and therefore into our collective knowledge, our caring, and into memory. So I guess one question that I have for both of you is, how did you choose to be a voice for others, if you feel you did that?
Elena?
Carolyn, you look ready to speak.
Well, I didn't choose. I took a path and it led there. I know that James Baldwin said that history is not the story of illustrious individuals, but the story of millions of people living their lives collectively and experiencing their present. I know it's probably true for Elena too, because we owe her a great debt of giving us this testimonial form that wherever you go in the world, people are willing to tell you their stories on the condition that you will write about it and write the story. And this happened for me when I was in my early 30s. And it was difficult to reconcile with being a private lyric poet. And it took me a long time to learn to live in both worlds and to allow my poetry to connect with that world of the testimonial.
Do you feel, Elena, that you have inhabit two different worlds, or that you've had to make a division between the journalist voice and the writer of fiction?
No, I think for me, people have always been, I've always loved to speak to everyone in the street. I think it's a natural inclination, and I think it's a way. In Mexico, it's easy to speak to others. I don't think it's easy to do it in New York. I think no one cares, and people go by you. And there are multitudes of people that go by you, and maybe if you fall down, they'll pick you up. At least at my age, they will help you. But in Mexico, people think that maybe that's why you're here, Magda, because people care. People care for one another. The indifference, I think, has nothing to do with Mexico because of one real reason. Because of poverty. Because of poverty, and besides because of the personality of Mexicans is not to be a show-off, not self-assurance, not a triumph, not vanity, not anything that has to do with for instance, with writing. Writers in Europe or writers in the United States. I think writers are becoming stars, or they try to be stars. They want everyone to pay attention for them. I remember a writer who wrote about sex many years ago, an American writer. Her name was Marilyn French. And when I saw her, she had a special car, a black car like this, to pick her up. So vanity, for me, is linked to celebrity, and I prefer words of people who are not celebrated and who don't take themselves as celebrities. But of course, I'm very happy to meet you all. I like your faces all. I suppose I haven't read you all. I've read, but I think, linked to women in many ways. I am a feminist, and I really love women, especially if they're very young or very old, not in the middle.
I have another question. This is again for both of you, but particularly Carolyn, since you started out as a poet so young, probably not with this narrative arc of the life you would then come into once you ventured away from home. So in other words, that lyrical inner voice that you mentioned, do you feel now that it's come this long way with you? I know it's been said about your latest work that you are a literary reporter. So there's a way in which it seems that was Hilton Als, right? Reviewing the latest book of poems, I think. Do you identify with that idea of being a literary reporter?
Not in the journalistic sense. I don't have Elena's gifts to do journalism. I tried to write journalistic articles, and my journalistic articles were very boring. And so it wasn't until I found the form of narrative memoir that I found a way to write of the things I had seen in prose. And so I'm not, I don't think I'm a reporter. I think I take in the world. It becomes things that go very deep inside me, things that I remember and people that I revere and listen to. They can't help but come to the page when I'm writing. I think, if I tried to report on things, I could only do so as a metaphor, the way that the Polish poet who wrote Mr. Cogito. Elia can help me with this. Zbigniew Herbert. Zbigniew Herbert has poetry where he says, I'm a reporter, I stick to the facts. But of course, he's being ironic, So for me, I write out of my deepest obsessions, and they have become the condition of humanity, especially in this moment now in our time of peril as a species. All of us together going through this all over the world, all at once. I think if one is obsessed with something, it will suffuse the work that you do. But I'm so interested. I met you, Elena, in Tepoztlan at an Under the Volcano some years ago. I don't know if you remember, but I was so thrilled I could barely speak to you. And I'm so interested in your testimonials and the way when you choose to do something in a testimonial and when you choose to do it in a novel. Can you tell us about how that decision is made about your work when you come to a point of wanting to write something?
Well, yes, it's a difficult question because there is a difference. There is a difference, first of all, in technology, because now interviews, when you speak to others, when you interview, you have a ¿cómo se dice? Una grabadora.
Recorder.
A recorder. But, and I think the recorder hurts writing. I think the recorder hurts interpretation. I think the recorder doesn't really effaces, ¿cómo se dice? Borrar.
Erase.
Erases in many ways. The other person, I remember Gabriel Garcia Marquez telling me many years ago not to use a recorder ever, just to listen to people and just to see their faces and listen to their whispering and listen to their breathing, the way they breathe and the way they look at you, because they also look at you. So this is, for me, this is It's to get everyone, the whole person in yourself, and in many ways become that person. I think this is what one should do. I don't know. One should not do anything, no, but one should really uh, take in the other person. It may sound very corny, so maybe I should stop.
No, this is beautiful. It's exactly what I was hoping for. I found that I started taking little photographs with my phone so I could remember a place. And then I realized that the phone was making me forget everything. And I only had the little picture left, and I didn't have this place inside me. So I stopped doing that when I was trying to write, you know. I think it's like your recorder.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we open the floor to questions, because we could listen to you, I'm sure, all of us, for the rest of time, um, I just wondered if you have anything going through your minds, both of you, about this moment that we're in. In other words, the pandemic. There's a great eagerness, especially in the US at the moment, for people to just go back to quote unquote normal. And yet, I think most of us are able to see that not only have we been crushed, challenged uh, by this past year, but also if you read the science, it's not over. And so, how do we live and write with uncertainty? Is this becoming the kind of subject that suffuses who you are, Carolyn, and therefore how you write or what you write about? And same with you, Elena. Just if you would each say a couple of things about that, and then we would like to give the audience a chance to ask you some questions.
I think this is an incredible moment for humanity to become aware and to achieve clarity. It's important for us to know that 86% of the vaccines are being given to the people in the wealthy countries. And if we do not vaccinate and care for everyone in the global south, in the poorer countries, we are putting the world, we're not only failing morally completely, but we are putting the world in peril for variants and resurgences of this virus. And so I hate to make the argument that it's in our self-interest to care for the whole world and not be precipitous about going back to our so-called lives, but rather to imagine that we're all interdependent as humans, and none of us are going to be safe until everyone's safe. And that's true of every dimension of our society.
Elena.
Well, what Carolyn says touches me very much because in Mexico, huge tents have been settled, especially at the university, Universidad Nacional de Mexico, and it's very touching to see the happiness of it. First, it's all old people with white hair like me, and it's very, very touching to see the happiness, the satisfaction, really, of all these people. They're not all these people are suddenly not noticed, but suddenly they are taken care for. Their attention, they are given a chair, they are given an orange, they are given a bottle of water in a plastic bag, they are given a little piece of candy, a Mexican candy, which I can't translate into English. So suddenly they feel and the vaccination is given by young people dressed like doctors. Of course, I'm surely most of them are doctors or very young doctors. And this whole situation is a situation of giving attention to others. So this is the way I think we live in Mexico, this pandemia. No, it's attention to people who have never, well, not never, but who have not been cared for, who have not been who are multitudes. No multitudes. A multitude has no face. So now we see faces, and we see people smiling back.
Mm.
In terms of our writing, Magda, I think we all live through this time. We are all passing through it. Our language is passing through it. Our consciousness is being formed by it. And later, our work will be marked by it. And there will be a trace of this year of isolation and loss in our literature for decades to come, whether we're writing about it or not.
We're really running out of time. I apologize, but we would like to just open the floor if people have questions for Carolyn or Elena.
Magda, there's a question from Marianne Smith that children in the US are having a peculiar addiction to their screens, iPads, etc. How shall we bring them back to quiet observing and listening to life without the screens?
Would you like to answer that?
Well, it's a generation that has grown up with it. And what I worry about is not only, I worry of what they've never had, you know, moments of contemplation and meditation and being lost in the forest, and things they've never had. And I think I still teach, and I don't have any answers about this, but I can tell you one thing: these screens and everything that they do to us, they're structuring our consciousness. They are changing us as human beings. And so it's very dangerous. It's dangerous in terms of eroding our capacity to sustain contemplation. And I think poetry and literature, writing and reading aloud and slowly and making art is the antidote to this, because you can't do it fast. You know, literature slows the mind. It makes us pay attention. And I think deep attention is what we need to learn and practice and convey.
My only answer to that one is writers write, and we do now have a little avalanche of very interesting questions all at the last minute from some of the writers in Under the Volcano, and I would like to just throw these out quickly. Diego is asking both of you how to translate the pain of others into my own writing.
Elena.
No, I want to listen. I'd rather listen than answer questions, difficult questions like that, especially a question about pain or suffering. I think there's too much respect in seeing in a person, in seeing others suffering, in order to be able to translate it. I don't think it has to be. I think I would be very shy about it.
I don't have an answer about translation. I agree with Elena. It's a question of developing our empathic imagination and dwelling in empathy, but we can never articulate the agony of another person. We can barely articulate our own.
Of course, I
agree with Elena.
Maybe we can leave with the word attention that Carolyn just brought into the conversation, because this is really what it's all about for writers, isn't it? That you are in a state of attention, that you bring to your writing that level of caring and of accuracy, of acuity, of vision and hearing, whatever it is that you're writing about. And I think that the choices develop. They take shape over time. And then we come back to time. How do you sustain over a life of writing or doing a commitment that is worth it?
I want to thank you, Elena, for coming. I know it was difficult for you. We're very happy you decided to be with us in person.
Thank you very much.
Incredible. What a gift, all of you.